First, just get an injury update. How did guys look? Both Cams and Dario. I don't know if Dell's even practicing because he's on the protocol, but how the other three guys look?
Cam and Dario and both Cam, Dario, they all went through practice today, so that was pleasant to watch, and we'll know more tomorrow. I'm hopeful to have two of the three ready to play tomorrow in a limited capacity, but we'll see.
And then just to follow that up, I was going to ask about your relationship with Chris. You two talked about how it was when you were with New Orleans, but obviously now time has passed. What things are you noticing now when you talk with him, in practice or in games, and you're like, okay, that's different about him from when I was working with him nearly 10 years ago?
Gosh, man. I mean, 10 years ago, we were both in different places. You know what I'm saying? My mindset was different. I was a first-time head coach. I was probably, just speaking for myself, I was probably a bit more headstrong about what I wanted to do and my philosophy and my culture and all that stuff. And I can only speak for myself. I'm looking for partners in this, and he's a great guy to be a partner with, and I don't think I allowed him to be my partner back then. I was just trying to coach, and that was, the only thing I knew was to coach the team, and I think for me it's 10 years later and a lot of life experiences later. I'm more aware of the partnership that has to take place. Like I said, we've been through so much, on and off the floor, he and I both. We probably are a bit more aware of our headstrongness, if that's a word or a phrase. But for me, for sure, I wasn't as willing to partner. It was just like, this is how we're going to do it. I'll listen, but I want to do it this way. And he won't say that just because he's always being nice, but I got in his way a lot. And I'm more aware of that now than I was back then.
All right, next up is going to be Kellen Olson with Arizona Sports. He'll be followed by Brendan Clean.
Hey, Coach, a week until the season opener last year, you guys had training camp 2.0, that huge break, obviously not afforded that luxury this year. Where would you assess where you're at compared to last year in terms of being a week out? Because you guys had that great start, which I assume had a lot to do with that week you had.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think the one thing that we have going for us now is we have a few guys that were in our program. So there are things that we put on the floor that those group of guys remember, and it's the best way to teach the new guys. So I wouldn't say from a program perspective that we're way behind. I wouldn't say we're where we need to be, but nobody is. You know what I'm saying? I just think we are where we are. I see the growth in the games. I see more carryover from the practice court to the game court every preseason game we play. I'm thankful that we had four games because it allows for us to give our guys time to figure out the system. So grading it or comparing it to last year, it's hard to say. I mean, that group had a lot of resilience and fortitude. We played that first game, then DA got suspended, and we just kept playing hard and ran off a few games. But it's hard to say. I can't compare it and give you a great answer.
All right, next up we have Brendan Clean with Forbes. He'll be followed by Cody Cunningham.
Forbes?
Yes. I'm all over the place, Coach. I wanted to ask you though, when Dario does come back, whether that is Friday or whenever it ends up being in the regular season, just from what you've seen in practice and what you think of the role he's going to play for you guys, what do you think's going to kind of change or get unlocked once he's able to get back in on that second unit and do what he does?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it. You know, the thing that you guys probably get tired of me saying it, but you need a connector in each lineup, and especially in that second unit. Last year, in the second unit, we had Dario and Frank and sometimes Aaron, who became like big facilitators at the top of the key on offense. And so I think once we get Dario back, having a guy with the ability to stretch the floor, shoot it, or make those passes, timely passes, really opens up your offense. Dario's, he's the kind of guy that everybody likes playing with, because if you're open, Dario's going to find you. That's who he is. And so, he's one of my favorite guys I've ever coached, and he's one of my favorite people. And so I just miss having Dario in the huddles, in the locker room, getting ready to play on the floor. He's just one of those guys you just love to have on your team.
And then I had one more for you. I don't think you've gotten the chance to talk about it, but you hired Kevin Young to your staff this offseason. I'm curious, it seems like kind of the same type of thing you did with some of the guys from Oklahoma City that you brought on in Phoenix, of people you'd worked with in the past, right? So I'm curious what stood out about Kevin that made you think he'd be a good fit here, and what you've liked about having him around so far.
Yeah, I've grown to be a pretty good pillager of other people's staffs. Kevin's a guy that I worked with for a year in Philly, and I learned a ton about offensive flow, especially the auto offense that we run. I got that from Kevin. He taught it every day in Philly, and I just sat there and studied it, and I'd go home and look at the film, and at first it was really complicated for me. And then the more I stayed in it and actually started to teach it myself, I felt like it was going to be an offense that if I ever got a head job, I could use. And so when the opportunity presented itself, when Philly had their change of plans, I thought, man, why not get somebody that's a lot smarter than me to come coach with us? Because he's an unbelievably smart coach, a really good dude. I mean, he's our culture. Kevin was a great fit from the jump. It's been seamless with him coming in here. He challenges me. He's just a good dude. And I had the experience with him in Philly in a really competitive environment. I watched him coach every day, and we had some personalities on that team that we had to coach every day, and Kevin was right there in the thick of it every day, coaching his tail off. And so I'm grateful to have he and Melissa and those beautiful kids come partner with us.
All right, Coach, there's a few more here. We're going to go next to Cody Cunningham with Suns.com. He'll be followed by Gina Maisel.
Hey, Coach. Usually when you talk about a six-man, you're talking about that go-to scorer off the bench. But with guys like Javon and Campaign, sure, you're still getting buckets, but that full-court defense seems to be really where they shine. Just why is it so important to have a duo like that come off the bench and play defense?
I think it gives you a change of pace. You know what I mean? Some teams, and we do it, we go to zone sometimes, but that particular defense for us, it's a bit of an unknown in a good way, because there are times where, those two get up and pressure, and we really don't scheme it as much as you would think. At least we didn't in Orlando, and we fell into it. We didn't do a ton of that last year because I just didn't feel like that second unit had the personnel to do it in the first 65. But when we got Campaign, he and Javon just started causing havoc with ball pressure. And then we just started adding a few more hits and traps out of it. And it's just become like a defense for us to accompany our normal package along with zone. So I don't want to get in their way with a lot of rules. We just, tell those guys to put pressure on the ball. If you see an opportunity to trap and get the ball out of somebody's hands, we'll take advantage of it. But those two guys are really important to our team in that aspect of our defense.
All right, final two. We're next with Gina Maisel with Suns.com. And lastly, she'll be followed by Dwayne Rankin.
Hey, Monty, I know how much you love when we bring up stuff you've said in the past, but at the start of camp, you mentioned how players are the ones who drive the culture, even though you're obviously setting the expectations as the coach that the players really drive it. And so now that you've been with this group for a couple of weeks, just what have you observed as far as how the players who were here last year have sort of meshed with the players that are new as far as continuing to instill and kind of build that culture along?
I mean, I think the guys know what a day is going to be like, the guys that were here last year. And so that to me continues the culture. They know how hard we're going to work. They know that, we don't want to waste each other's time. Time is really important. And what I'm seeing from the guys that were here last year, they're able to set the tone as far as setting the example. So other guys see the way we work, they see the drills, even some of the goofy stuff we do in film sessions or, the screens around the practice site with some of the silly sayings I may put up there. Those guys actually know what's coming. And so they can talk to the new guys and tell them like, yeah, that's what we do type thing. And that's what I mean by culture drivers. I don't think there's any coach that's, wants a bad culture, but we all try to teach good stuff, but the players are the ones who implement it every day. And that's something that I don't take for granted.
All right, our final question is going to come from Dwayne Rankin with the Arizona Republic.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to get back to Chris real quick. Just in games so far with him, what are you two seeing, in terms of on the floor? Because obviously he's your coach on the floor. So what are you guys looking at or discussing in between, say, play or in situations like that?
Yeah, he'll come over to me and, a lot and just say, what do you see? And, I'll tell him, look at this play or look at this option out of this play. And a lot of times he's already on it. He's just being respectful. Once he gets the offensive package down, he's going to be able to, run it on his own. And I'll be able to just, help him see some things, I hope, that he may not see. But right now, in our offense, we have certain plays that come out of, after a make. We have certain things that we want to do after a miss if we don't have a layup. And then there's a different bucket on side out of bounds stuff. So just getting him lined up with that, because that's what the guys from last year are used to. And I think once he gets that, he'll be able to take control of the offense and just kind of run with it. And like I said, it's a partnership. I don't want to control the game by, calling every play that, based on what I see. The players are on the floor and they have, vision and experience, and I want to take advantage of that. So that's basically what we're talking about in games. He'll come over to me and tell me, he'll ask me like, Coach, what do you see? And I'll be like, whatever it is. And then I'll give him an idea, and then, he and Devin will just kind of run with it.
And just to follow that up, what things have you seen him do, whether it's practice, games, however form it's been, where you're like, wow, I'm glad we got that guy. I'm glad he's with us.
I mean, case in point, like this morning, he and DeAndre were upstairs by the coach's offices in a one of those really nice rooms we have here. They were up there watching film an hour before practice, just those two. And you can't pay for that. To have a guy like Chris sit down with DeAndre and just look at film and talk and teach and that kind of thing. And that's the culture driving stuff that we talk about. That's a huge component of our culture. There's other things that have happened, but that just happened today. We come out of our meeting and it's a boardroom type deal, and with one of those big tables where people should be sitting at with creased pants and all that type stuff, and they were sitting there watching film and just breaking down last night's game. Like, what a gift, for DeAndre to be able to have somebody like Chris, sit there and watch film with.